Canada is the second largest country in the world by area and one of the least densely populated. A nation where the relationship between human settlement and wilderness is defined by scale rather than conquest. Its forests cover an area larger than the continental United States. Its freshwater lakes contain 20% of the world's surface freshwater. The indigenous peoples of Canada First Nations, Métis, and Inuit have lived in relationship with this land for at least 15,000 years, developing cultures as distinct from one another as the landscapes they inhabit. The Canada that most visitors encounter: the mountain parks, the cities, the organized hospitality, sits at the southern edge of something almost incomprehensibly large to the north. Banff and the Canadian Rockies. The Canadian Rockies run along the Alberta-British Columbia border. And within them, Banff National Park, Canada's first, established in 1885, preserves a landscape of ice-capped peaks, turquoise glacier-fed lakes, and valleys that fill with elk and bear in the mornings. Lake Louise, whose water is colored by glacial rock flour suspended in the melt, turns a shade of turquoise so saturated it appears artificial. The Icefields Parkway, 232 kilometers of highway between Banff and Jasper, passes the Columbia Icefield, one of the largest accumulations of ice in the Rocky Mountains outside the polar regions. Vancouver. On the Pacific coast of British Columbia, Vancouver is built between mountains and ocean in a configuration of physical beauty that is immediately apparent. Its population, one of the most ethnically diverse in North America, has shaped a food culture of particular range and quality. The ancient temperate rainforests of Stanley Park, 405 hectares of old-growth forest pressed against the downtown core, were here long before the city and are maintained with a deliberateness that reflects a civic decision about what a city should keep. Quebec City, on a limestone promontory above the St. Lawrence River, Quebec City is the only walled city north of Mexico. And the most European-feeling place in North America. Its Its old city is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Its 17th and 18th century stone buildings clustered around the Château Frontenac. A railway hotel built in 1893 in the style of a French chateau. The city was the site of the Battle of the Plains of Abraham in 1759, whose 15-minute outcome shaped the entire subsequent history of Canada. Yukon and the Northern Lights. The Yukon Territory in northwestern Canada was the site of the Klondike Gold Rush of 1896. Which drew 100,000 prospectors into one of the harshest landscapes on Earth. The territory is now home to 40,000 people and a wilderness of 482,000 square kilometers. In winter, the Aurora Borealis appears on clear nights. The southern Yukon is positioned almost precisely under the auroral oval. And offers some of the most reliable northern lights viewing in the world. Haida Gwaii, off the north coast of British Columbia. This archipelago was home to the Haida people for at least 13,000 years before European contact. The Haida developed one of the most distinctive artistic traditions in the world. Their monumental cedar totem poles, canoes, and bentwood boxes are collected by museums, from the Met to the British Museum. Today, Haida Gwaii is jointly managed by the Haida Nation and the Canadian government. A model of Indigenous co-stewardship that has preserved both the cultural landscape and a temperate rainforest ecosystem of exceptional richness. Niagara Falls. On the border between Ontario and New York State, the Horseshoe Falls on the Canadian side is 57 meters high and 790 meters wide. Discharging approximately 2,800 cubic meters of water per second on a summer day. The tourist development surrounding it is aggressive, but the falls themselves seen from the boat that travels into the mist at their base or from the observation deck above the Canadian edge are genuinely overwhelming at any scale of expectation. Newfoundland. The easternmost province of Canada was an independent dominion until 1949. And the culture of its outport fishing communities, their music, their dialect, their food, their relationship to the sea, remains distinct from the rest of the country to a degree that feels less like regional variation and more like a separate civilization. The Viking settlement at Lalande-Saulx Meadows, established around 1000 AD, is the earliest confirmed European presence in the Americas. The coastline of the Avalon Peninsula is one of the best places in the world to see icebergs in late spring.
The Prairies and the Badlands.
The three prairie provinces cover 1.9 million square kilometers. Most of it flat agricultural land that was, before settlement, the grassland home of 30 to 60 million bison and the cultures that followed them. The bison were largely eliminated in the 19th century in a deliberate campaign to destroy the subsistence base of the plains' indigenous peoples. In the Badlands of Alberta, the Dinosaur Provincial Park contains the remains of 35 species of dinosaur, more than anywhere else on Earth, preserved in layers of Cretaceous sediment 75 million years old.
Montreal.
On an island in the St. Lawrence River, Montreal is the second largest French-speaking city in the world after Paris. Its underground city, 33 kilometers of tunnels connecting shopping centers, office towers, metro stations, and universities, was built in response to winters that regularly reach -25. The city's food culture, its smoked meat sandwiches, its bagels wood-fired through the night. Its poutine, its French-influenced restaurants, is argued over with regional pride that approaches the theological. Prince Edward Island, the smallest Canadian province, an island in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, is an anomaly in a country of extremes, green, gentle, agricultural, and possessed of a scale and pace that feel more like coastal Europe than North America. Its red soil, colored by iron oxide in the sandstone, contrasts with the green of its potato fields and the blue of the surrounding water in a combination of colors that the landscape painter's eye finds immediately satisfying. It is the setting of Lucy Maud Montgomery's Anne of Green Gables, whose readers in Japan have been making literary pilgrimages here for over a century.
The Bay of Fundy.
Between New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, the Bay of Fundy experiences the highest tidal range in the world, up to 16 meters between low and high tide, twice a day. The tidal flats exposed at low tide are feeding grounds for millions of shorebirds during the autumn migration. The Hopewell Rocks are sea stacks of red sandstone eroded into mushroom shapes at the waterline. Which can be walked around at low tide and kayaked around at high tide, when the ocean covers the same ground to a depth of 10 meters.
Canada does not announce itself. It does not have the marketing instinct of some nations, the promotional energy that converts landscape into brand. What it has instead is scale, genuine, unmanaged, indifferent scale. And within that scale, a human life organized with a care and a civic seriousness that feels, in the current century, increasingly worth attention. Take care, Canada.